Off top, former President James Garfield could write simultaneously with his left and right hand in two different languages, one in Latin, one in Greek. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. It's kind of impressive, right?
It's kind of impressive. That's unbelievable.
Sorry. My daughter, so I'm in Florida for a flag football tournament, and so we had to be on some planes, and so the youngest had a book about presidents, and this fact was in there, and so I was like, I don't know, I don't trust this book. So I had to Google to check, and the historychannel.com also says that it's true simultaneously. He's also the first left-handed president, I think.
Huh. Is he truly left-handed if he's ambidextrous?
I think that he wrote with his left hand, like routinely, but was capable of writing with his right hand. And I guess trilingual, maybe more linguals than that. I assume he also spoke English, but that's pretty impressive. I can still barely dribble with English. I can't really go left with a basketball. I mean, I can, but not at a high enough level. Maybe James Garfield missed his calling. What do you think? He should have been a hooper.
He could have been the original Kyrie.
Yeah, he probably handles like Kyrie.
I have a feeling that if he was a hooper back then, we would have just called him a plumber. Although was there even indoor plumbing at that point?
I don't know. Probably not. Yeah, I guess Kyrie is the most likely. I was trying to think of a professional athlete is most likely to be able to. I don't know. Maybe Wemby, who's we think is capable of writing simultaneously with both hands. You don't even have to do separate languages. Like, how is that even possible to like think words and write words with two different hands?
I feel like that's like a drill we would see Steph Curry warming up with an hour and a half before a game. He'd have two quills on the court. He'd be balancing on two little foam pads. Yeah,
I mean, that's better than a warm. That's a halftime show. That's Red Panda level dexterity. Anyway. Let's talk about some sports, Charlie. I guess I'll give people updates on my trip to Florida and my son's flag football prowess at the end. There was only one fight, so that's nice.
I've seen videos of it. You downplay it. Declan's super athletic.
Yeah. I mean, when he wants to be.
He had a couple jump cuts where he was one on a punt return, one on an interception return, where I would have been the other kid reaching for the flag, where he made people look real slow.
Yeah, I sent you a picture, a referee. So there's a lot of people down here who are into football. So this is definitely my demo. Most people are really nice. And some guy told me that he was Tyreek Hill's dad, which I assumed because that was he was like, I love you on ESPN, and I'm Tyreek Hill's dad. I mean, that would be a weird thing to make up, but it just was shocking. But there was a referee who came up to me and was like, tell a vanilla snack. I said, what's up? So I took a selfie and sent it to you.
I'm really glad I appealed to the referee's demo.
It was the lone white ref. Now there was a couple white refs. Like it's like 40 fields down here. So, but in our little section of the field, like a few of the guys came over to take a picture with me, a few of the refs and whatever. And there was one white ref who wanted a picture, but he was like, tell a snack. I said, hi. I was like, all right. He didn't say it like he was trying to flirt with you. So don't get your hopes up.
No, I just am glad that, rules enthusiasts appreciate my content.
All right. Well, speaking of rules enthusiasts, that's a terrible transition.
I was going to get that transition at all.
It was a jump pass. I was like, I'll be able to connect it. I'm just going to start saying this, and it'll come to me how I'm going to get to Deebo Samuels. But I couldn't figure it out. So
speaking of things that rule,
there you go. Well done. Well played. See, that's why you're here. You just left me flailing when there was an opportunity right there.
I just want to whistle you for a 15-yard penalty.
You look so happy about that. I don't. So they don't even do. Well, I guess they did a couple times yardage penalties. You get a penalty in this tournament is like loss of down. Offensive penalty is like a loss of down. Nuts. Like a false start or something. Loss of down. I like it though. Keep it moving. Anyway, all right. That. Give your transition to your beloved Commanders acquiring the wide back Deebo Samuel.
Well, here's the facts of the matter. Washington traded a 5th-round pick to San Francisco for Deebo Samuel. They'll be picking up 1 year, $17.5 million of his contract. Washington sort of is at the beginning of this run, but probably had inflated results last year where they made it to the NFC Championship way ahead of schedule because Jaden Daniels was so precocious and the team improved a lot. They ended up being merely below average on defense compared to historically bad like they were at the start of the year. And Daniels was and Cliff Kingsbury were able to execute an offense that was incredibly high powered despite lack of talent at wide receiver, running back, holes in the offensive line, pretty much everything outside of the quarterback.
Oh gosh, this is the most depressing, optimistic outlook on the season I've ever seen.
But no, this is the joy that you have this rookie quarterback and you have a ton of cap space where you're able to move more aggressively and start building in the right way. But I want to ask you, when you look at this move, obviously it equates to a flyer on a player who's 29 years old, who's probably on the back nine of his career in Deebo Samuel, who is a really fun fit with the way Cliff Kingsbury gets the ball to the quarterback's hand really quickly. But what does it signal to you about the Commanders and then the 49ers? We should start with the Commanders, the team that actually acquired the player.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, honestly, it should give you even more confidence in Adam Peters and the way the GM there and the way this organization is being built. Because I think that free agency, one of the best things you can do in free agency from my standpoint is eliminate need. So like free agency should be the period where you fill the gaps in your roster. The reason why I think that matters is I don't like entering the draft where you are weighing guys based, not solely, but based more on where your roster needs help than based on who is, in your view, the best and most impactful player. Because I think that when you're drafting for need, you'll reach on a guy, you'll trade back or trade up and expend capital because you have to fill a hole. And I think having Deebo there, and he's unique too because he's capable of playing receiver and running back. So like you don't have to convince yourself that you have to jump up to get a receiver or try to trade back to get it happens from time to time where there's a player on the board that we all know is like good, or a player that we recognize is worth the gamble. It's like a high ceiling type of player where teams are like, well, we can't afford to do this, we got to get a tackle. It's the worst thing ever. And if it just so happens that it works out that a tackle's there and you need a tackle and that's also who's best on your board, I just think the draft is such a time for like opportunity. You'll find that, I know we focus a lot on rookie quarterbacks winning Super Bowls, but you'll find on all of these teams, every team that gets to and wins the Super Bowl, there's always a number of rookies that are playing above their contract. And whether you got him in the first round or you happen to get Richard Sherman late in the draft or some player, Puka Nacua, like I understand that those teams didn't win Super Bowls with those guys in rookie deals, but you get the point. Like you can find them anywhere, and it doesn't have to be quarterbacks. And you can miss out on guys like that because you're tied up by all your many needs. So it's nice to see that they've addressed some of those needs, and they addressed it with like a potential guy. Like I think we know that Deebo is a different type of receiver, so he might age a little faster than the regular receiver because he's kind of a running back. And but we do know that Deebo's going to give you some plays. He's going to give you some one-play drives, which those are incredibly valuable.
He's a great fit. If he has anything left in the tank, he's a great fit. And this is like a nice aggressive move where this is not, outside of T. Higgins, not a great free agent wide receiver class. It's not a great wide receiver draft class after last year. Obviously, Travis Hunter is at the top of it. We don't even know if he's going to play wide receiver in the NFL. People are really split on the Tet McMillan types, where the athleticism seems ahead of the production in certain ways. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like, yeah, if you're not going to spend $40 million a year on T. Higgins and lock yourself into that, this seems like the right thing. But it's just like, how weird are NFL trades that you have a name that feels like a big name? It's like, oh, he just went for a 5th round pick. And then, oh, you went to his Wikipedia page and he just turned 29 years old. It feels like he's 50.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the 49ers didn't want him, right?
Yeah.
Like, they didn't want him. So that's what made, and with only 1 year left on his contract, but you're right. You would expect someone like that everyone knows who's pre-30 would attract more, but you also aren't surprised. Like, it's funny when you take a step back and look at it, but if I would have told you Deebo was traded, you would have, I don't know, the highest you would have gone was like a 3rd, right? I don't know that you would have even thought that.
Yeah. No, I mean, this was a choice that the 49ers made by not being willing to pay some of his salary. They suppressed the market by wanting to get off his cap number. When you look at the Commanders for next year, is this more of a gain in culture or actual talent?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the things that's really encouraging about bringing him from San Francisco, because when you get a new GM in a new city, he doesn't have to take all the guys with him from his previous stop. He's only taking the guys that I think he has faith and confidence in. And everything we've ever heard about Deebo is he's a culture guy. I think this is huge for a team like this that is going in the right direction, to have a guy in the locker room, a do the right thing type of guy, a hardworking, physical, no excuses type of guy who's gonna certainly help to like continue to develop whatever culture they're building that feels positive in Washington right now. So like I think as a culture idea, it's also good, which I guess it kind of raises the floor of it, which is hard to measure. That we're always going to measure acquisition by what we think it's going to mean to a team on the field. And then after they make a long run, we'll be like, oh, yeah, this guy really influenced the culture, blah, 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 and we'll make a story about it. But I think it's fair to at least appreciate that there is a floor on his contribution, and that floor is having him around the rest of the team, a guy who knows how to win, a guy who's unselfish and hard-nosed and physical and tough. I know I'm clicheing you to death, but like these things kind of matter. You look over at the guy next to you, and that's what I think I've defined culture a number of times, but it's like the acceptable like behaviors and processes. And there's some things that I think could be acceptable when Deebo's not there that won't be acceptable when Deebo's there. And that's invaluable, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, it's another adult in the room. This is the thing about the Commanders under the Snyder regime would have made this trade, but they would have given him a first-round pick and given him $150 million and made him the highest-paid wide receiver in the room. In the Adam Peters, Josh Harris era, and I mean, we can get to this because we have potentially some stuff on Josh Harris and the 76ers later. I wonder if he learned from some mistakes here. He's bringing adults in the room. Right. Like Dan Quinn, people were down on him because of the Atlanta stuff, and it made him a joke by the end. He is running this program like an adult. Adam Peters is running this program like an adult. The guys they brought in, even if they weren't these uber talented people where it's not a roster built like Philadelphia yet, built like Detroit's offense yet, it's guys who are no nonsense and not complete jokes. And like it's jarring for me as a Washington fan for us to be making like prudent moves, guys who are scheme fits, who make other things easier, where we're not giving up too much draft capital, we're not like up the timeline into oblivion, where it's like, oh, here's the thing, we're gonna grab this 31-year-old Andre Reed and put him out there. Like,
I remember when you guys put together that really old secondary. I remember that one. That was fun.
Oh yeah,
you guys had it was like Dion and Darryl Green. It was, who else was it?
Oh, it was Mark. There's
Mark
another
Carrier?
one.
Mark Carrier.
Yeah, Mark Carrier.
Yeah.
Bruce Smith, who's actually good for Washington, was the irony, because he was just made of iron.
Yeah, it's funny because there was another dad on the team who's from DC and wanted to talk about the Commanders, and he was like, I've never talked about the Commanders with anyone before. I grew up here. I'm a fan, but I've always been ashamed. And I was like, yeah, I'm my co-host. I know somebody like that who used to just make fun of his own team and now has confidence. You went from mocking your team to believing you were going to beat the Eagles in the conference championship in just a few months. That was an incredible turnaround.
I mean, maybe he didn't have enough faith in the Eagles' infrastructure and Jalen Hurts, and had to but it wasn't that I had too much faith in Jaden Daniels. He went and balled out. That's the thing.
Ball out, yeah. You might have had too much faith in the Mandos, but we'll see.
To me, the lack of downside, because they're still going to have cap space, and to your point, like they need to nail the draft, they need to nail free agency. But if we learned anything, it's like get the fat guys, build through the fat guys, and keep Jaden Daniels upright because he is skinny. I feel like that was one of the stories of Super Bowl week, that everyone who saw Jaden Daniels was like, he is a lean man. But what do you think this signals to the 49ers? I mean, this felt inevitable. We knew last year after they extended Ayuk, this was probably gonna be Deebo's last year with the team. They're gonna have to pay Purdy. This is a team that still has shockingly high Super Bowl odds, even though it feels like they're at the end of this run. Does it signal to you more of a rebuild or a revamping with this group? Because they last year was, not to like, everything went wrong. Everything possible went wrong.
Right. I mean, the decisions that they made in the draft and free agency, like obviously the Deebo move is not a surprise. It does feel like it signals a new era, sort of. And like with the inevitable paying of the quarterback, that's always a shift that's challenging for all teams that go from getting away with a hell of a discount at the most important position to actually having to pay the value and figuring it out around the rest around them. I'm less concerned about Kyle Shanahan in the offense and Purdy figuring out how to be productive there. Like, I do think the Deebo and the Christian McCaffrey era is probably at its end. They'll find other players and find other ways to create offense. The thing that's been more concerning to me about the future of this 49ers thing is they've always had a really good defense. And that is where we have seen a lot less of whatever Shanahan magic is. We've seen a lot less of that value there, and that started to fall off. I think that's what has really killed the team, even though there was a lot of injuries on offense and we paid a lot of attention to it. Like, what had me concerned was they couldn't get pressure anymore.
They don't get sacks anymore.
Yeah.
They don't get sacks anymore.
And sacks can come and go, but like they weren't winning up front. They always had like somebody up front that was winning, and then had Warner behind running everything down. And it just like the defense deteriorated to the point where it does feel like I'm less confident in them going forward. Again, not because of the offense, but because Kyle Shanahan's always had the benefit of some real defensive support that feels like it's gone.
I'm really interested to see how they rebuild that, because I still have an immense amount of faith in Shanahan and Lynch to figure it out.
Yeah.
But this is like, it honestly, the Rams have done it better. It feels like the Rams did this thing where we were like, they're going to be paying the bill for this for years, the F them picks era of the Rams. And then it's like, no, actually, we'll just nail every single pick outside of the first round and be able to rebuild on the fly. And of course, they extended Stafford, and they're going to keep this together probably for one more year and then figure it out from there. But it feels like, the 49ers got some value from Parasol last year, and presumably, like, he's talented. They should get some of the Deebo stuff back. But it feels like some of the replacements on the defensive line and in the secondary haven't worked the way that they thought. And they're the people who are paying the bill for going all in. And it seems faster than the Rams doing it, which is really interesting, because it's almost like, I almost wonder if we think of that incorrectly. If it's going all in and losing all flexibility only matters if you can't hit your picks. Because we saw that was the end of the Patriots too.
So you guys are at the beginning of this window. Mm-hmm. And the decisions that you make now are the ones that are going to determine, I think, how much pressure will be on those picks going forward. I guess it might be too early to assess what the strategy is for your team, but I think we all kind of have like this. I guess they're like more intricacies to the decision making. Is when a team lands a rookie quarterback, we all just jump into spin mode. It's like, get all the
Houston last year.
Get all the high-priced veterans you can get, load up, and run after and make a run for the championship. Yeah, that's the move also, but you still have these. I guess you could also trade away the draft picks in the way that the Rams did in order to bring in more talented difference makers. I guess I don't really have a question, but I don't know. I guess what would you want to see your team do with Jaden Daniels, to cash in all those picks and bring in playmakers, or try to build traditionally?
So I don't think timelines in the NFL totally exist, because everything's so fickle. But infusing young talent is the way that these teams have worked. Of course, Howie Roseman makes better trades than anyone in the NFL. Kyle Shanahan had made great trades to bring in Christian McCaffrey, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying that it's wrong to not bring in star players. Of course, if you can get Myles Garrett under market value, you take him. But all of the trades that were made were by people who saw market inefficiencies and were able to land guys on prices that didn't completely destroy their cap. Those are the teams that done well. It's like, if you learn anything from Howie Roseman, it's that he saw Saquon Barkley and was like, that guy's better at football than Khalif Raymond, and they cost the same. Maybe we should take this guy. Yeah. And so nailing the draft in certain ways of finding value in your first and second and third round picks, which they obviously did incredibly well last year and is something that they have been historically bad at for my entire lifetime. To me, that's probably more important than free agency, but you can get aggressive. If there's a player that you like if they had wanted to go all in on T. Higgins, this guy's 26 years old, we can have him for the entirety of Jaden Daniels' rookie contract, and him and Terry McLaurin could be this excellent core that are different, and Deebo Samuel's coming out of the backfield, I would have been fine, nail your picks and do that. But it's so hard. It's not. I feel like with football, there's not one recipe. With basketball, it's get LeBron.
I mean, it's not that simple, but yeah. I mean,
It kind of is. Basketball is that simple. Unless you're finding Giannis or Jokic, get LeBron.
No, it's not that simple. But yeah, I get your point. It's like that.
Don't sign Jordan Poole.
I think most people would argue that. Well, I guess it's not necessarily true, but
Or
most
Gilbert
people
Arenas, or John Wall, or Bradley Beal, or any of the moves.
What would happen to you if your basketball team was good too? Like,
You mean if we capture the flag?
Is that what you guys are banking on? Is Cooper Flag is good enough to
and then AJ Debanza. I mean, Cooper Flag, that guy, he's good. He's an incredibly high floor prospect.
So you want to go back-to-back number 1 overall picks? That's how you guys are going to rebuild it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I know LeBron didn't leave us to go to Miami, but Adam Silver, for the love of God, give us back-to-back number 1 overall picks.
That is true. They did do that. DC's a major city. Like, just get some money in the league. I feel like that.
From Baltimore to DC is the most talent-rich basketball area on planet Earth, and we have the most embarrassing professional basketball franchise imaginable. Although we're going, did we tank a year after Wemby? Was that
that was ridiculous.
An amazingly dumb decision? Yes, it was. But they have, Bub Carrington, Bilal Coulibaly. Sar, who knows? Give us a little Cooper Flag.
As someone who's outspokenly opposed to tanking, I remember having conversations with you where I was like, what are they doing? Like, this is the year where they were holding on to Bradley Beal, right? I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, get what you can get for Bradley Beal and stink. And now they just stink and don't have the same Wemby chance. I guess they probably already knew where Wemby was going. Adam Silver the fix was already in, right? Allegedly.
Yeah. I mean,
was Adam.
I just, it's a comedy of errors with the Washington Wizards. We could do a whole podcast on the fact that, we had a coach in Randy Whitman who didn't know which side was up or which side was down on his clipboard for a while. We had John Wall and Bradley Beal being like, LeBron's ducking us in the playoffs. We're a better backcourt than Steph and Clay. It was just this delusional 5-seed behavior, whereas we've decided that we're going to be a contender and overpay these people and manage the team horribly and have the worst name and uniforms in the NBA, and then just sort of change the uniforms to look like the Washington Capitals and look like the Bullets' old uniforms, and then quite slowly and quietly degrade them from that while having an arena that kind of sucked and bad coaches and Ernie Grunfeld and spending all of this money on players who deluded themselves into thinking they're superstars. It's here's the thing. I get that you're anti-tanking, but you also have to be anti-really annoying, delusionally confident teams that are going absolutely nowhere and sink your franchise for a decade if you don't get Cooper Flag.
Yeah, no, we've talked about this before. Tanking in basketball, I understand. But clearly, the tankiest team in all of basketball, it didn't work for them. They're paying the price right now, continue to pay the price as it seems like it's all over for your man Joel.
Yeah. You want to talk, so a little Embiid stuff. It's over. It's sorry. It's Jover, but Joelver. It's Jover.
Oh gosh.
He's now shut down for the season. He's considering an experimental surgery where they would break his hip to do a cartilage or meniscus transplant or something along those lines. This is a guy who's missed more than half of the games in his career, is going to the Hall of Fame. He won an MVP. He's one of the more skilled scoring centers we've ever seen. And it still feels like this is a disappointing outcome because 2 years ago, the last time we saw him really healthy, he was scoring more points per minute than Wilt Chamberlain in the 1962 season. And it's just over.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it's sad because you're going to mock me for saying it's sad. But
it's kind of sad. This is kind of potential loss. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, good. It's weird because it's sad, and to your point, it's also a great run for a great player. I guess the experimental surgery suggests that it might be able to work, so maybe we shouldn't say it's completely over. However, it feels like it's over. The friction between Joel and the team makes it even more sad because it felt like they were backed into this corner together, where Joel was because thanks to your buddy Pablo Torre, the process became a famous thing. Their losing plan. And Joel and the Sixers organization and the Sixers team. Like, it felt like they were bunker mentality even after they got rid of the process creators. But now, even having those guys turning against each other and podcast P just being P now, canceling the podcast, is just like a really sad flame out from a situation that you might get people making the argument that the process worked because they ended up with Markelle Fultz, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid, or at least really
people
highly.
say it's an incomplete because they got rid of the NBA, removed Hinkie and put in find a new slant Jerry Colangelo, who upended the process before it could be completed. That would be the positive slant on it.
I don't know. I'm not happy that it didn't work out for them, but when I look around the league, there's so few teams that around the NBA, that is, there are so few teams that were built as a result of intentionally being trash. Like, that's just not how. I feel like I can explain why tanking doesn't work in football and why teams don't tank in football. It's harder for me to explain why it doesn't work in basketball because, like, I understand. To your point that you made earlier, all you have to do is get LeBron. Yeah. Like, your whole organization changes if you tank at the right time and you get the right player. But it just so happens that the teams that are the best and consistently competitive aren't the teams that, like, stink it up until they get a superstar player.
Well, it's interesting, too, because, like, for a long time in the NBA, you didn't actually have to, there weren't teams that were intentionally tanking because teams were so dumb that they would end up terrible regardless and then get rewarded with these picks. Which is, I mean, that is how LeBron ended up in Cleveland. That's how a lot of these teams work. But, you know, when I think about the Embiid stuff, I just think it's a really fascinating career and one that feels out of a different era. Like, it just feels, I mean, I know Iverson was over in like a day. Sean Kemp got fat and then was kind of good, actually, fat for a couple years, and it was just over. Larry Johnson had the back injury early in his career that changed him from a potential, like, proto Charles Barkley replacement to someone who was a role player on the Knicks. But this feels like Ralph Sampson or David Thompson in the 70s when there were off-court issues there, but where a guy is this good and then poof, it's just gone. It feels like we had moved to like a different stage in the NBA stuff, and this is like a very unique career. Maybe Zion will follow this path where he'll figure it out for a year or two and be one of the best players in the league. But this guy who won an MVP, who I don't think anyone ever thought was really the best player in the league, who's going to have these gaudy per game statistics, and he's 31, and he's made he will have made $513 million, and like it's just over. It's just over. Maybe Derrick Rose.
Yeah, I mean, this does feel large and seismic, which makes me want to like draw some like learnings from it, and thinking about like how the max salary interacts with the second apron and committing to big players, big time players. But like, it's hard. Joel, while you can point to examples that are similar to Joel, there aren't enough for me to think, like, if I'm running a team, I wouldn't be as hesitant. Like, I want to say that general managers or teams will be reluctant going forward because the second apron acts as a hard cap, and signing
like
someone.
The contract that was last summer. Embiid had hurt his knee the previous season, then went to play in the Olympics and signed this extension that was a max extension that's going to take him through 2028.
And obviously, the 76ers, if they had it over to do again, they probably wouldn't do that, given that he looks like he's not going to be able to play. But the question is, if another team is in that situation going forward, I want to be able to say, like, this experience will have some – I want to be able to give people something, why this matters, why this is different. But no. Like no one's not going to draft Joel Embiid, and he slid because of his injury concerns in the draft, if I remember correctly.
He stress fractured his back and then broke his foot.
Yeah, but when there's a guy that big and that talented, he's going to get drafted. And if he plays as well as Joel Embiid played, they're going to sign him to the max contract extension even before it's time because, I mean, assuming this phantom player like suggests that he's going to force his way out, or because like you just don't want your superstar franchise player around your organization pissed off. Like in the NBA, it's different. These guys are still going to get paid no matter how like unfortunate this situation is. Like it's hard to draw any like lasting conclusions about what's going to happen going forward because they're just too valuable and too rare for anybody to mess around with them.
What if I said to you the 76ers should restart the process?
I'd say you must have been talking to Pablo. That's funny. Didn't Pablo, he used to be a Knicks fan, right?
Yeah.
And he left the Knicks for the 76ers in the process, and it didn't work out. And the Knicks did not do any stupid process, and they are, I mean, not as good as we thought they were at the beginning of the season, but they're a good team. They're 3 in the East right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they could make the conference finals, which is further than Embiid ever got in the postseason.
I'm looking at all these top teams, and it's like none of these people tank. Like the Celtics just took advantage of a Prokhorov. Like that set them up. Oh, and they took advantage of the 76ers too, right? Didn't they?
Yeah.
That's how the Celtics got good. The Cavs went and got Donovan Mitchell and drafted Evan Mobley. It wasn't a tank. Like the Bucks are number 4, which I guess that's not real, but they didn't tank for Giannis. The Thunder, again, just taking advantage of people. The Nuggets got Jokic late in the draft. Like,
this is
none of these people tank, so stop tanking.
I mean, OKC definitely tanked, but they also
did they?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
I thought they fleeced the Clippers for Shea. Oh, as a result of tanking?
And 7 first-round picks. It was the Clippers were so desperate to get Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard demanded a second star and Paul George. They got 7 first-round picks and SGA, which is unbelievable. But then they also were bad enough to get Chet Holmgren, and they were the worst team in the NBA that season. Ended up with the 3rd pick.
Well, I'm gonna twist that in order to still fit my narrative. Is that they didn't tank? There was a great opportunity for a trade that happened to gut their team. And they just happened to suck as a result of it. It wasn't what the 76ers did. And that was a short stretch.
No,
the 76ers
it's totally
were
different.
like,
I'm just saying,
we're going to stink for a decade until we get enough good players. Anyway.
Shout out to Pablo, though. He did a great episode on Wilt Chamberlain, another historic loser that I'm sure he supports. And it's going to be, I mean, that his episode on Pablo Torre Finds Out was great. And I just cannot wait until it's like 10 years from now and he's doing an episode on Bonnie Blue.
Shout out to Wozni, who's a big, I guess he's a big Charlie in Wilt fame, Wozni Lambre.
Yep. Last thing, and this will be a shorter episode. We're on remote, but the last thing on this, we just did an episode about Jason Tatum and the article about the being the face of the NBA. And he had his moment in Cleveland where they played a team that's now the 1 seed in the East, and it was at home. And the Celtics are up 25-3, and Tatum has his 44-point game, and they blow that lead, and it became a meme again, which I actually felt bad for, that he got memed immediately for one of the best games of his career. Yeah. But in conjunction with that, beyond the Tatum thing, did you see LeBron's tweets and his comments about how he never wanted to be the face of the NBA, and he totally gets why no one would want that because of its only criticism that comes with it?
LeBron, I think it's a reminder. This situation to me is like a reminder that we have a propensity, I think, to like either determine that someone is positive or negative, and then like everything that they do or say, you like see it through that prism. And I think of LeBron as a very like aware and savvy and smart media person, which this is not an example that he's not, but like I think that he often, I've been saying this for like a decade now, that LeBron knows that we're going to talk about him, so rather than let us decide what we're going to say, he'll do or say some and then it'll be the topic going forward. This is the first time in a long time that I felt like LeBron just did not have a full grasp on how this would be taken, because it was just, or maybe he wanted to. He just wanted to reinsert himself in the conversation because he didn't have to get in this, and he got in this with something that's easily refutable. Even though I'll defend him, this one is kind of easily refutable. Like you wanted to be this. This is who you are, man.
I love LeBron. I love LeBron. Oh, he is largely hilarious. He has carried the NBA unlike any star like ever, probably.
Yep.
This is patently absurd. And like, how dumb do you think we are, LeBron? Like, you love attention. You love attention as much as you love basketball. And I'm fine with that because you are great at both of them. You're great at attention. You're great at basketball. But your entire thing has been trying to be the face of the NBA since your chosen one tattoo, since you've compared yourself to Jordan for your entire career, since you called yourself the GOAT, since anytime you're not in the headlines, you force yourself into the headlines, since you forced the NBA to have your son in the league. Like, he has wanted a narrative nonstop for his entire career. He loves being the face of the league.
All right. One of my favorite things to do is be the locker room lawyer. And so I will step in as LeBron's defense attorney and say, like,
good, he needs one.
He needs one from you and your accusations. Had LeBron not, we would have reacted. Saying that he had a choice. So it's different than having a choice in playing it well. Essentially, like, you're saying that he played into this face of the league thing, which I can't disagree with. Like, he did all the things that you're saying that he did that got him more attention, got the game more attention, and was essentially how you react or how you behave when you're the face of the league. But you're saying it as if he had a choice. He was awesome at basketball, and what comes with being the best basketball player is like an expectation that you will market this league and you will do the Jordan thing, and you will smile and kiss babies and give people stuff to talk about and endure the burden of whatever criticism that comes with it. Like, I guess you can say he had a choice, but what was the alternative? To beat Tim Duncan? We would have cooked him if Tim Duncan did. Like,
first of all, no one cooks Tim Duncan.
Of
Tim
course,
Duncan.
Because
why?
Because why? Tim Duncan was never in this position, and you know it.
I'm just saying,
was never
there are people who
in a situation
who love attention who became the face of the NBA, whether it's Shaq or Kobe, who weren't as good as Tim Duncan.
Fair, but we
didn't cook Tim Duncan for it.
Well, Tim Duncan came in under the David Robinson umbrella in Nowheresville, San Antonio, and they had other. My point is, they had other people who were more or at least close and marketable enough to get the attention. LeBron was in the finals every damn year. If LeBron was in the finals every year pulling a Mike Trout, Stephen A would have kicked off every first take like, LeBron, you got a responsibility. Come out here and speak and sell the game. It's not fair to say that. And also, on top of it, even if this was a choice that he made, it's a choice that he made when he was 16. Like, you can't... He's a 16-year-old only child who was the best basketball player anyone had ever seen.
No.
And you're like, hey, how about you be mature enough to shun this attention, LeBron?
No. Look, he is basketball Beethoven. Like, this is like, it's one of the most fascinating things about LeBron is that he is an unplanned prodigy. He is not Tiger Woods. He is not Rafael Nadal. He is not Stephen Curry. He is not someone who is basically given the tools to succeed and revolutionize the sport at a nascent age. The fact that he developed that passing the way that and obviously the physical stuff, like, it is unbelievable. It's completely unique. It is one of the most fascinating things, like, true prodigy. I totally get that. He also tattooed Chosen One on his back when he was 16 years old. He also
if your parents allowed you to tattoo at 16 and you were also 6'8" and the best basketball player anyone had on the team, get a tattoo on my back saying Chosen One is the least offensive thing I would have done in that situation.
When I was 18, I got, thank God for a breathalyzer. I tried to get a Sean Taylor tattoo. And they were like, no, get out of here. It was in Dewey Beach, Delaware. It was like a Washington Commanders red and yellow 21.
Charlie, do you have any tattoos?
No, of course not.
Hold on, Charlie. Like, I don't study religion, but I have heard things like, isn't it like really like...
Yeah, you can't get buried in a Jewish cemetery.
And you were like, bleep that cemetery. Sean Taylor meant a lot to me.
Yeah, it's like, you see that hit on Brian Moorman?
Oh my gosh, you're my favorite. Oh,
I didn't.
Thank you to you gotta send a thank you note to this Dewey Beach tattoo establishment and was like, you're 18, you were old enough to do it, and they were just like, nah man, nah, curly hair white kid, we're not gonna
get out of here, you doughy white.
I respect them.
I think they're like, you're
man.
gonna regret this. They're like, you're gonna regret this.
I think they should have taken your money, because them not tattooing you is worth more than had they actually performed a tattoo.
They could have taken the money and just drawn it on with a Sharpie, and I would have been happy.
They would have. You didn't even like. I mean, you were a fan, but you didn't even really like your team. You didn't even respect your team back then.
That's true. But it was 2007, 2008 was an emotional year for.
Yeah, fair point. All right,
but
we will be getting the Jaden tattoo after he wins it. We're getting it.
Oh, that's fine. If he wins the Super Bowl, yeah. I will get a tattoo.
By we, I mean you. I don't have any tattoos. I'm keeping it that way.
I need some edge. I need some edge.
You don't need any edge. Where would you get this? Where did you want to get the Sean Taylor one?
It was like right here. It was a little
like on your shoulder?
Yeah.
Oh, man. You make me so happy. You're a hero. I don't know what to say after this. I think it's time for me to go down to the pool and enjoy the last few hours in the sun before I head back. What's the weather like up there?
It's cold. It's like 35 today.
All right. I'm going to go do this rope swing. Appreciate you, Charlie. Thanks to all the great producers. Good show. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.